Okay, so today we're going to have something different. Actually, not too different. I had an interview here last video, and it went so well that I'm going to do it again. Today I'm here with my father-in-law, Sam Craig, and he has been driving a truck since late 70s, early 80s. And I think there's a wealth of knowledge that we can learn from Sam. He's got quite a few stories, more that we can fit on this 10, 20-minute video. But we're going to ask him some questions today. And there's going to be stuff to learn here for sure if you're paying attention. So let me go ahead and introduce him. So this is Sam Craig. He's my father-in-law, good friend. And I want to say fellow truck driver, but not really, because you've never really driven a truck.
I drove low bed.
Yeah, but the air quotes of being a truck driver, you've done quite a few different things. Yeah. So I guess let's start out.
Well, I'm retired also, so.
Yeah. No, I want to get there. Believe me, I'm right there with you. But tell us about yourself and tell us how you got into this in the beginning, and what year was it?
I'm going to say probably 80, 81. I was working at a local Stop and Rob in Red California. It was the only place open at night. And in the morning, I'd go home and I'd see these log trucks just flying through the valley. They were loaded log trucks. And I was looking at them going, that's something I might want to do because I really didn't have a career. I was bouncing around. I've been going to school, working odd jobs and stuff. So I ended up deciding, you know what, I think I want to do that. So.
And you probably knew a lot of people that drove truck up here, at least talked to some people?
Really? Then I started talking to people. And I started talking to people, and they told me that, well, if you don't drive truck or don't drive log truck, you're not going to drive.
Well, right, in this area.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. For those of you that don't know, we live in a small county, and that was the business back in the day. You're either going to drive log truck, you're going to work for maybe the police department or sheriff's office or some sort of state agency, or there really wasn't great paying jobs.
Or the Forest Service.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm being nice.
That's another story. But so I mean, you caught on pretty quick that this was an opportunity to make a lot of money and probably advance in it.
Yeah, I started asking around, and I was told that there's a couple people that actually teach driving. I didn't go to any schools. I didn't do any of that because I don't even know. Well, there's probably schools in Southern California, but not up here.
Yeah.
So I was told to go contact some of these outfits that may teach you. So I got a hold of one guy, and he said, "No, I ain't teaching you. All my drivers that I've taught, they've gone on and driven for someplace else or somebody else, and they were making more money. Obviously, that's why they left."
Well, yeah, that, and they didn't want to waste their time on somebody that's just going to be around for a couple of months just to go to the competition.
Yeah, because it's an investment of the owner's time. I mean, it really is. So I talked him into working at his shop. So he said, "Okay, if you want to work at the shop, come in Saturdays. There's plenty of work to do." Well, in the shop, I actually work for free. And I was telling Donnie earlier that my first day in the shop, I was shown how to change split ring tires on trucks. And after the first one, I did 15 of them. Which was kind of interesting because I'd never changed a split ring tire. I don't even know if I'd changed a tire before. Actually, off a rim, tire, whole thing.
Well, the thing to know about those tires is that they're hard to change and they're dangerous.
And they'll kill you, Yeah, easy. Anyway, so I changed tires, and then the only time I got paid was when I washed other drivers' trucks or greaser trucks. And my boss at the time, the guy that ran the place, he didn't even pay me for washing and greasing his truck. But if I washed other drivers' trucks, greased other drivers' trucks, I got paid $5 a truck to wash and $5 a truck to grease.
So really, you were taking a chance at going to work for him because after using you for a while for free, he could have told you, "No, we're not going to teach you."
Oh yeah. Easy. He could have said, "See ya." Yeah. Thanks for all the hard work. But I did learn a lot working in the shop, even though I worked for free. in his shop, you did all your own brakes, and I don't mean you actually put the lining, riveted the lining back on the brake shoes.
Yeah.
You did all the wheel seals. You did your oil changes. I mean, you did all the electrical. The only thing you really didn't do in the shop was work on the engine, hard engine work, or transmission work.
Right.
But everything else, if you had to pull another rear end, put a rear end, a drive line because you twisted one off. I mean, I did learn a lot, but I did it all on my own time working Saturdays. So this went on, I don't know, this went on for maybe a month and a half. So I think I started in the spring, probably the spring of 80, and maybe even 2 months. And then finally the owner came out one day, it was on a Saturday. He goes, well, you've been here, you show you got some grit or gumption, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you're sticking around, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a hanger-oner, I guess. So I hung around long enough. He had some faith in me. So he goes, okay, be here Monday morning, 2:30 in the morning. You're going to ride with me. So I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been in a log truck.
Yeah.
I'd only seen them drive by. I hadn't even shuttled one in the yard,
yeah.
Or been behind a wheel.
And you just put you right behind the wheel then?
No.
At some point, though.
Well, down the road, yeah. No, I rode with him, and I rode with him 3 days a week on my time. I'd be at his yard at 2:30. Well, it depends what rotation. There was 10 trucks, and every day there's a rotation. So if Monday the first truck gets a load first, then Tuesday the second truck gets a load first, and the first truck goes to the rear.
Right.
But he was the boss. He loaded whenever he wanted. So usually we were early out. And I rode with him 3 days a week and then worked in the shop again on weekends and greased and washed trucks.
So obviously you must have impressed him. He at some point said, here, get behind the wheel, empty.
Well, yeah. I think I rode with him probably another about month and a half, just riding with him. And, we talked. I'd watch him when we hit, off the road, in the landing, how the truck was loaded, all the good stuff that goes with it. And then one day we were hauling logs out of Dog Creek, way up Dog Creek, which is down on the way towards Antlers. Anyway, so we're way in the heck and gone up there, and we get off Highway 5, and he goes, okay, you're driving empty. And I was kind of surprised, actually, because I didn't know if he's ever going to let me drive.
Yeah.
So he pretty much yelled at me and whacked me all the way up into the landing, told me I was too far, too close, too fast, too slow, too close to the edge, almost drove off the edge.
But good reason, because it's not like normal truck driving. It's actually pretty dangerous.
It's different.
Yeah.
I will admit it's very different.
Well, you can go off a cliff. You can end up running into another truck on these roads. I mean, all kinds of stuff can happen.
Yeah, you got a CB radio. You call your mark. Once you get off the paved road, like off a county road, and you're on a dirt road, you call your markers every quarter mile, half mile, depending upon how bad the road is.
Yeah.
And you get out of the way for the loaded trucks coming down.
So, and really, the point of it is that he didn't teach you to just drive a truck. He taught you how to drive a logging truck, which involves much more than just driving the truck.
Yeah, and maintaining it.
And maintaining, it was like the whole thing. Which I know back in the day, there were trucking jobs where you had to take care of a lot of your equipment. Right. Probably not to the extent you were doing, but
well, if you work for a JIPO, say you worked in a little construction outfit. A little sand and gravel, like some of our local truck shops, you probably still take care of your truck more than a line driver.
Right. So, and really, you earned your job. It was your classic go out and find a job. You earned it.
Yeah, I worked pretty hard at earning it. And then in the meantime, I was telling Donnie earlier, in the meantime, while I was riding with him, I went down to the DMV. I did all the paperwork. I got my permit for my Class A, which I didn't have when I started. I only had a Class C basic driver's license. Now, this is all before the federal government took over everything, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the feds took over roughly in about 90.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my boss, the lead driver, he was what do you call it for the DMV? He could sign you off.
Oh, he was like the instructor or the...
Well, not an instructor. He was the guy that could sign you off on your license.
I see.
So after driving empty for him, a few times, or more than a few times, really. One day we came down loaded. We came down off of Dog Creek. We hit I-5 North because we were hauling up to Ashland, Oregon. I think we were doing 2.5 trips a day. And he goes, okay, you're driving to Ashland, Oregon. And I go, oh, all right. So he yelled at me all the way to Ashland, Oregon while I was driving. And it was a 13 speed. So I was getting used to driving a 13 speed. And even though I'd watched them and driven empty, driving loaded with a 13 speed was a lot different.
Well, any truck's like that. Once
Yeah.
it's loaded and you're on a downhill or an uphill,
Yeah,
shifting is all different. Everything is different.
everything is different.
Yeah, right. So you landed up getting your license. I mean, obviously, you got to use their truck to go to the DMV and.
Oh,
take
I
the
didn't have to
test.
go to the DMV.
No?
He wrote it all off.
So that's
He was
that's what's different back then. You
Yeah.
could just literally write it off and say that you can drive.
Yeah, he
So there was no drive test.
no,
Really?
no. The drive test was driving with him every day, 3 days a week.
Right.
So I got the paperwork from him. And actually, he had the paperwork from the DMV back then.
Right.
He signed it all off, and I took it into the DMV, and I got my Class A driver's license.
Oh wow, quite a bit different than now.
Yeah.
So obviously you did that. You worked for some other people. Came back to him. There's there's a whole story on that. But so at some point you moved from here and you used that CDL for other jobs.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was the next step after that?
Actually, having a CDL and gaining all the knowledge I got working in his shop,
Mhm.
I was able to go to work as a maintenance worker for the state of California and California Parks and Recreation, state of California Parks and Rec.
Right.
And I
And
was
so
able,
that was maintenance or equipment operator.
started out as a maintenance worker.
I see.
And but having a Class A driver's license, they didn't have a driver down there. They didn't have a class where I went,
Yeah.
where I got hired. Having a Class A driver's license was a big deal because they didn't have one down there. And then all the knowledge I brought with me that I learned working on log trucks, working in his shop,
Right.
Cutting torque, you just freaking name it.
Right.
Anyway, that helped me land that job, and that was a really good job working for the state of California.
So yeah, and that brings me to this that you don't necessarily have to be a truck driver to utilize a CDL to make good money and have a great job. I mean, you worked for the state. Eventually, you became an equipment operator, which means you had to haul your equipment. You
Yep.
had to do dump truck and these kind of things. All requires a CDL. And
Yeah, drive low bed, drive belly dump, truck and pup.
right. And by doing logs, you're used to tying down loads and knowing what's secure and what is solid.
Yeah, when you start off with a load of logs, you throw about 4 wrappers on it. You go down the road a little bit. You kind of check your wrappers out of your rear view, and if they're hanging down under the load, you pull over, you cinch them all back up again. Then you go down the road a ways, you keep an eye on them, and usually just about the time you hit the paved road, the county road, you stop again, and you get back out, you wrap them all up, tighten them all down again. By that time, the loads usually settle pretty good enough that the wrappers are going to stay tight.
Right.
So then you head up the highway and hope you don't have a flat or blowout that you got to change.
Right. But it was a huge help because it's the same concept.
Oh, yeah.
But much easier because you're on actual good roads and not some back mountain road.
And that taught me that I needed to tie down graders tight, tie down loaders tight,
Right.
If I was hauling, didn't matter because I drove low bed for the state.
Yeah. And so at some point you landed up, I think you went back to logging again. Wasn't it back in the late 90s?
Yeah, I had, it was somewhere around 1998. My wife and I decided to move back to Siskiyou County, even though both of us had really good jobs. It seemed like it was just time to move home.
Yeah.
So we moved back home, and for a couple of years, I hauled logs in the summertime. And then I had my hazmat also, which was a really big help. So I was able to drive fuel truck in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So I drove fuel truck, then hauled logs in the summertime. And then I got a job I got hired on with Caltrans. Now, the state is all CalPERS, so that includes Caltrans. So I got back into Caltrans and basically finished off my career working for Caltrans.
Well, because you had a CDL, you had the option to just get up and move
Yeah, that too.
to
Yeah.
a rural area, and you knew you weren't going to keep doing logging again. It was just, it's what you needed to get to that next
Oh
better
yeah.
job.
Oh no, I had a job. Before I even left the state to move back here, I already had a job.
Right.
Because of my CDL.
Yeah. And you know, that reminds me, now, like we said in the beginning, you literally didn't have to go down the conventional way and take your test at the DMV or any of that. So the question leads to the question I'm taking is, what about endorsements? How did that work? Did they even have that back before it was federal?
Yes, they did. Let me think for a second. I don't know if there was tanker, but there was truck, and definitely truck and trailer.
Well, the doubles, triples, air brakes, these kind of things.
Those really didn't. That was all part of the CDL. That was part of the CDL test, if I remember. It wasn't like separate tests.
Right.
It was part of the.
Just one piece.
Yeah, one piece of the test.
Well, what about hazmat?
Hazmat was a separate test, but it's not like today.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And that's all because it wasn't federally.
Yeah, it wasn't federal. It was all run by the state of California, which was really good because if you got a ticket in another state.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard quite a few stories like that. Yeah, just don't drive there anymore.
Yeah, just don't go there anymore. Back then, the state of Oregon and the state of California DMVs didn't get along.
Right. So, it took years for what they called it reciprocating laws.
Right.
Where they actually had a connection going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Because anyway.
Yeah. Another story. So so the point is that, you know, you can live in a small area and you could, you know, you can do a local job or you can work for like the state, excellent benefits and things like that. It all comes from having a CDL. But one of the things I wanted to focus on was the way you got your license back in the day. I think it's still possible for people to somewhat follow that pattern.
I think you can do it now. I think if you live in a rural area that has, you know, some small construction outfits, we call them JIPOs because they're non-union. They work different hours. A lot of times, maybe they have 2 log books, or they work in 100-mile radius.
Yeah, so
you got more leeway on what you
hours,
do. Yeah, more hours.
Yeah.
So if you can't get to a school, can't afford a school, you could kind of do the same thing. Start at a shop. Or if you know somebody that's got a truck or a small trucking outfit.
Right.
I don't think big trucking outfits are going to do that, but a small trucking outfit might.
Right.
They might take you under their wing. I think you can you get your permit? You can go down and get a permit.
Yeah, and that's what amazed me because you said that you just went and got your permit.
Yeah.
So apparently that never changed because it's still that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody can go study the book and go take the test and get your permit. You don't need any special training for that.
No, you can get your permit and then you can drive. If you've got somebody that will, mentor you and let you drive.
Yeah.
And then you just need, when you go take your test, then you need a truck and trailer or whatever it is, or if it's a bobtail, water truck, or if you're going to get your Class B.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I look up to people like that because I think they respect their job more. And what's the word? I think you're more scrappy when you work jobs like that, get your license like that. Makes you more resilient,
Yeah, well, it took a while to do it. It wasn't easy. I put in a lot of my own time. You can ask my wife, Barbara. I mean, you can ask Sam's wife.
Maybe we should have an interview with her and we can get the real story. So, okay. And so Zap, he's your stepson.
Yeah.
And
he's
obviously, he's a good guy. And I had him on last week. And, I mean, he's done well. You've done well. I've done well.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I'm always trying to put out there, maybe some people aren't meant for white collar jobs or technical things. There's a lot of opportunity in driving a truck or even just having a CDL. But to me, it's the working for the state, in 2 different capacities, and then Caltrans. That, that's huge.
Yeah. I will be honest, I did enjoy my job with the California State Parks as an equipment operator. That at the time when I left in '98, there was only 21 or 22 equipment operators in the state of California in state parks.
All right.
So it was kind of a club. And it was a really super enjoyable job. I mean, I went to work with a smile on my face.
Oh, I bet. That, you got to see all that backcountry and
Yeah.
unique areas and that kind of thing.
Live in some beautiful places, unique areas.
Oh, yeah.
You got to put up with a little bit of politics, just like Department of Transportation, Caltrans. But and I worked in some pretty cool places working for Caltrans. I worked in Syad for a long time. That's kind of
it's off the beaten path a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Then worked over in Tule Lake and worked over Grass Lake and worked out of Wairika.
Yeah.
So I worked highways, freeways, small roads.
Which is all good experience for whatever the next thing is. But for you, there isn't any of that because you're retired. But so that means you can look back and you can probably get a lot of good out of what you've done, make more sense of it. So that leads me to my final question. What would you tell other people just starting out?
Okay. If you have the opportunity to go to a school and the finances, are available, I mean, that's definitely the way to go these days. I mean, because there's so many schools out there, truck drivers are needed. But if you're in a very small rural area like this, and you don't have the resources to go to a truck driving school, or you don't want to. Some people they're not school people. Some people need their hands on stuff.
Yeah.
I suggest you find a really small outfit and pester the owner. And
we'll start out by at least asking.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You ask and then pester, and then you be persistent. You keep showing up until they can't say no anymore. I mean, that's basically what I did with this guy that told me no, go away.
Right.
I just kept showing up until he finally didn't say go away anymore.
Right. But that whole process took you probably half a year by the time you got behind a wheel.
Yeah. By the time I got driving on my own, and it took a good half a year. Actually, it took a half a year. The guy didn't have a spot for me, so I went to work for a small construction outfit. I got $4.25 an hour to drive dump truck, and then it was about 3 months. The owner of the log truck outfit called me up and he said, "Well, I lost a guy. I need you here tomorrow Monday morning at 2:30. We're headed to the Salmon River. Follow me." So,
right, and at that point you felt like you owed him, so I'm sure you were.
And plus the money. I mean, come on, $4.25 an hour, working 8-10 hour days versus 27% of a load, which back then, I mean, I can't remember what I made, but it was pretty fair money.
At least a couple $100 a day, right?
Yeah, it was $2.25, $2.50. It's $2.75 a day.
And that's early 80s, so that's really good.
That wasn't bad money.
Yeah.
For driving a truck back then.
Right.
And one of the things about driving a log truck was half the day you're out in the woods and country you've never seen before.
Right.
And then the other half the day you're going down the freeway.
Right.
Trying to run people over.
Right.
So
well, there was a lot less people back then on the road, I'm sure.
There was, actually there was.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I even seen the difference from 21 years ago when I started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's it's like ants. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I drove my pickup to Medford the other day. I was like totally blown away.
So all right, well then that concludes it. I think your story is unique. I think it'll help people, and
and be persistent. Don't give up. That's the main thing. A lot of I heard something the other day. And I'm going to be honest, it was on a Hallmark channel. That's disgusting. Anyway, it was about a gal asked the doctor about what she wanted to be or how about going about it. And it kind of did hit home with me. He said, you have to fail. Mm-hmm. Keep failing. Fail, fail, fail until you get it right. And then when you get it right, you'll know it. Yeah. But some people Some people don't fail. Some people either fall into it or they're just good at it right out the get-go. But some people, it's like when he told me to go away and don't come back. It's like, no, I'm coming back.
I personally don't think they're as strong, the ones that don't fail, because that strengthens your mixed character.
Well, you have to fail. If you fail, then you know what you did wrong, and the next time, hopefully, you're not going to do it wrong again.
Right.
And then maybe you'll get it wrong again, but it won't be the same wrong that you just did.
Right. It was like Thomas says, in 900 times or something, he failed at making the element for the light bulb.
Right.
And he said that, well, there's 900 ways I know not to do it.
Not to do it.
Yeah, that's
right. Right. And when people say no, especially if it's like a job situation, I'd say, okay, just take that as a challenge.
Yeah.
Unless it's absolutely impossible, I say take it as a challenge and say, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah. Just believe you can do it.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I appreciate it, Sam. Thanks for going on my little channel here. And
you're welcome, Don.
I think it will help people out. And so another interview down. So hopefully it'll help people.
No,
thanks.
Good. All right. You're welcome. You guys take care and good luck out there.
All right.
And God bless.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.